Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Redder Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast with Matt, Brian, and Kevin. It's all three of us here. We're in all different places. I got Matt in Cincinnati. I got Kevin. He's at his house.
At home.
He's at home. And we're going to talk a little baseball here. We just finished up with the Missouri State Championships. Had a good time there. It was a whirlwind. It was pretty fun, wasn't it, Kevin?
It was a great 4 days down there. A lot of baseball, a lot of fun, and a lot of exciting things going on.
It was. We saw a lot of good baseball, a lot of good baseball players. The days were long. There was a lot of long games, a lot of contested games, and some that weren't so contested. But, you know. Matt, you were following along, right?
Yeah. I watched some of the games, some of the late ones. I kind of lost track of, because it got pretty late. But, I think there's a lot of people that could not make the trip that were following along online. Whether that was through PBR, for Kevin's updates, or just other Twitter avenues, whether that was through you, Brian, at YBM. It was nice. I mean, heck, you just pull up Twitter and boom, you find out an update on the score.
I know I was talking to the Mish folks up in the box that were broadcasting, and it was the Zumwalt West and Liberty Championship game, and it's like midnight, right? And they still had 47 viewers on. So at midnight, there was still plenty of people watching the baseball game, which I thought was pretty good, right? High school,
Absolutely.
So,
guys, definitely.
We're going to get into this a little bit. We've got the Class 4, and what I want to do today is this. We're going to take a look at these championship games. We're going to look at the 2022 list from PBR, Missouri. Kevin's been compiling and looking at players and just finished up with an event yesterday. Correct, Kevin?
Yeah, we had one of our major ones of the summer, the Missouri underclass games, and had a good event, long day, a good day, and saw a lot of talented sophomore going to be junior guys.
I think it's going to bode well for the rest of the state into the next couple of years with these 2022s, 2023s. Matt, your opinion on that? You're seeing a lot of ball players around the state, 2022, 2023 for high school baseball.
Well, the 2023 class in the state of Missouri is loaded. Loaded. The 23 class, the 22 class is obviously very good. But the 23 class, I think, is just on another level, to be honest with you. I mean, just look at the guys. I mean, you've got the number one kid in the state isn't even committed, but he's got offers. You got an A&M commit, Miami, Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, Arkansas, and there's still a lot of guys that are really good that are not committed yet. But I think one of the kids that, at CBC, Zanatello, is, you saw him hit a home run for CBC, right?
Yeah.
So he's a heck of a player. He's fun to watch, and he's a top 5 kid. So I think the 23 class, nothing against the 22s, but I think the 23 class is just as a whole on another level.
What do you think of that, Kevin?
I strongly agree with Matt. The 23 class is one of the better classes we've seen over the past decade, quite honestly. It's a special group, and there's going to be it's a high end group. There's some high end guys, and there's going to be a ton of Division One players out of this list, and we got to see a lot of these young guys perform on a high level during the state tournament. And they weren't just role players. These guys were starring for their teams during the state championship. So that kind of, doing that as a sophomore, you might see one or two guys doing that, but we saw a ton of them doing that down in Springfield this past week. So we are in good shape, and I can tell you the 24s and 25s are also abnormally strong as well, it appears, in the Missouri. So we're set up for a good run here of high school baseball in the state.
Well, I'll tell you what, gentlemen, and I think that goes to the training, the clubs, and I know there's people on both sides of that argument that say, oh, they're great at this, that. I don't care how you feel about clubs or whatnot, but you can see the results of training, the exercise, the movement of higher level baseball, and it's starting to show in the talent that's being produced in the state. Matt, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would agree with you on that. I think that's probably everywhere, though. The training has just gone to a different level. It's become more, I would say, of a year-round sport for kids that aren't only down south, which makes a huge difference. Just with, if you look back, to even take 8-10 years ago, the things that kids have access to right now, it's on another level than it was 8-10 years ago. You go even back 20 years ago, I mean, it's night and day different. But I think the big part is, I think what you're harping on is the training portion of it, but I think it's the access of what they have for those kids that are talented, but also really, really have the drive, have the work ethic to put in the extra, to have places to do it at. I mean, everybody can say, like, I played with this kid that had the most raw talent, but they didn't give two craps about doing anything outside of playing games. And those kids normally fall off. Now you got the kids that, look, he's got all the talent and he's putting in the work, places that like ace pitching. But I think you're right.
There we go. We're going to get some perspective here from Kevin, but I want to say this. If you don't know Kevin or his background and why he's with PBR Missouri, Kevin's had an extensive background in coaching. Kevin, where'd you start? Where'd you start your coaching career?
I started at technically I started at St. Louis Community College at Forest Park, and was there only one semester, and then moved to Lake City, Florida, to work at Lake City Community College. And then from there I went to Central Missouri. And you were at Murray State. You were 4 years at Murray State. One of the things I think is impressive at Jeffco, you were 2 years at Jeffco. Your record at Jeffco was 63-19. That's pretty impressive, dude. No, we had some good groups. We had some really strong players at Jeffco, and I was fortunate. I got to coach a lot of talented guys, and we had a good run, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
So, 47-10, you had a 29-game winning streak in there. Talent always does help, right? But as a coach, understanding and know that you're bringing those players there. So you've seen talent, you understand what it is. And this is why you're working with PBR Missouri and assessing talent and bringing those things to bear, correct?
Yeah, it's a fun way to be around the game and get to see a lot of talent and, still be in touch with the kids. I'm not coaching them per se, but I still have contact with them, and I've enjoyed the process.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about this level of player and what Matt was saying, what I'm asking here about the club level, what do you see in that? Do you agree with that assessment, or is the training bringing that level up?
Matt's right on all accounts. I mean, I think back to, 15, 20 years ago, even if a kid threw 90 it wasn't common, and he was going to be drafted. Now there's so many kids that throw 90, like, they might. It doesn't automatically mean that they're going to get drafted or going to some big SEC school or some big name school. They might be. They could be going a lot of different places. The talent, the kids, are training year round or close to it. There's a lot more information out there, a lot of really good coaches helping these young players out.
Very good. Okay, guys, Kennett, Class 4, Kennett beat Blair Oaks, and they beat them pretty good. I don't mean to put anything down or on. They beat them pretty good. And we're looking at the 2022s today. So here's a big stay tuned, guys. We're talking, both Matt and Kevin, next week we're going to talk about the 2023s. So make sure you tune in. That's what is known as a teaser in the biz. Exactly. So we're looking at the top 10 you got here in the state of Missouri for 2022s. Now, we didn't see Zach Stewart because Lebanon didn't get in there, but we saw two kids from St. Pius, Carter Muck, who you got number 10, and Jack Mosh. One's going to Mizzou and one's going to Kansas. The old border war, right?
The rivalry, yeah.
Those kids, they really did a great job. They won the state. We kind of knew that was going to happen. St. Pius was Class 3. There really wasn't anybody else on their level, was there?
I hate to say it, but yeah, they had the most talent. I think the best team won at that level without question. We've been calling their name out all year, multiple times on this show, in fact, and they were towards the top of our small school rankings, and yeah, that's a really talented group, and they can hang with the big boys, and they kind of sliced their way through the postseason and ended up bringing home a state championship.
And Matt, to that point, you got two guys coming back next year. What's to say they're not going to win back-to-back?
I'm not betting against it. I mean,
right?
I mean, take a look at their run though. I mean, they had a couple close games in there, but I mean, for the most part, yeah. I mean, they handled their business. I mean, I would think they're probably the favorite, right?
Yeah, I would think so. As long as you keep the Missouri and the Kansas guy from fighting.
Doesn't mean as much now as it used to.
It's true, right? They haven't played in a while. They stopped that. I know that's a bummer. It was a good one.
It used to mean a lot more.
So we got Reese Robinette. We saw their number 3. Kennett in the Class 4 they beat up Blair Oaks pretty good. I know I went back to St. Pius because I wanted to do that, but here you have Reese Robinette with Kennett. And we were talking earlier before we started the show, Kevin. They got that young man as Ryan Heffling, right? And now he's
Riley,
at 2020.
Yep.
Riley?
Yes.
So they're pretty loaded right back in the same spot too, right?
They got a young talented team, and they had a couple seniors certainly as good contributors, but so does most high school teams, and they got a good collection of young talent that'll only get better and better. So you would imagine they'd be a tough one to deal with for the next couple of years still.
Yeah, you were mentioning Tanner Duncan before we come on.
Yeah. Their catcher who had a strong state tournament, Braden Tice, their leadoff hitter, Trey Gardner, who didn't even start for him at the state tournament, assigned at Arkansas Little Rock. So as a senior moves out, they're going to have a Division I talent slide into that other spot. So that's kind of how deep they were, and their center fielder, Brooks Nigel, good player. And so, yeah, these guys are loaded and have one of the best bats in the state in Reese Robinette. And you obviously saw the impact he created at the state tournament. Literally won the game for him in the final inning of the semifinal game with a big 3-run homer, and then the next day came back and hit an inside the park homer and a double, and he was on full display last week.
Absolutely. Matt, I'm going to go right to the Class 6 with you here.
Right.
We watched Fort Zumwalt West all year. We watched those guys, a lot of seniors. They're bringing back some kids that we don't really know about in that respect, correct?
Zumwalt West, I would say, is some of the younger kids I'm not as familiar with. The one thing, though, with this class, with this, the thing that I would like to touch on is Liberty.
Okay.
I thought the way Liberty used Carson Milbrandt was great. They got the most they could out of him instead of just starting him one game and just burning him. They said, you're going to throw relief game 1, and we don't know when you're coming in, but you're going to come in at some point. And they pretty much did the same thing in game 2. And as you do anything with a coach, if it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't, you're an idiot. So I would say that it worked for him, and kudos. But I mean, when that dude came in, he was pumping it, and he did well. He showed well, and he followed the hype. So I mean, for that, I think kudos to him and to the coach, because as soon as he came in, the door was pretty much shut in both games.
Yeah.
But, like CBC's we're talking about, what to look forward to in the future. I mean, that's a young team that, finished 4th in the, so I think, they're going to be right there next year, especially since they have the experience. They could be kind of like a Zumwalt West almost of this season. They have a team. But, Francis Howell's another one that I think's got a lot coming back. That's really good. So it's going to be fun. But I think the big thing is how Milbrandt was used. I don't know. What do you think on that, Kevin?
Yeah, that was entertaining. You weren't sure how people were going to use their arms, and they had they have some really good pitchers. Kai Bennett gave them a really good start, but there's no doubt Carson Milbrandt is a special talent. We just came out with our national rankings today, actually, and he's in the top. He's right around the 300th ranked player in the country, and I love how they used him. He closed out the semifinal game, got the last 4 or 5 outs, and then they got to about the midway point of the championship game and said, "All right, here you go, big boy," and he brought him home, and he was honestly a little better the second night than the first night. And he was really good the first night, but the second night was the higher velo, like on average, and was really sharp. And obviously, Zumwalt West can hit. They got an old team, and that was no pushover. That was really impressive to see the way he dominated both nights, and was a huge reason why Liberty won the state championship.
And to your point, Zumwalt West was really starting to hit that kid, the Brock Tony. They were starting to build something, right?
You know what? You've seen it. I was thinking it before they went to it, and I told a couple people this beforehand. Zumwalt West is kind of the it team. A lot of seniors. They were down 6-0 in the district championship game in one versus a very good Francis Howell team. And I absolutely could have seen that happening again, and it was starting to happen again in the state championship. But then a guy like Carson Milbrandt comes out of the bullpen, and there's no forgiveness there. You're not going to be able to overcome the type of deficit they were up against an arm like that if you got a quality defensive team like Liberty is. And that was the difference, is they had the the elite level arm that Zumwalt West got in a hole. And once they got in a hole, they weren't going to be able to come back from that. Now, had Zumwalt West got out in front, it would have been a different story. But Liberty struck first. It took Zumwalt West about an inning or two to kind of settle in. But that's all Liberty needed.
Yeah, because they scored two in that fourth inning, and that's when Milbrandt come in. That coach like time. I remember that because you could feel that movement, and I think that's spot on. Because once that kid came in, it was like, oh my gosh, you could feel it. It was right there. So,
yep.
Let's take a look at some of these other 2022s and some of these schools. We also got to I want to give a big shout out here because we watched this game. I got to do this before we move on. That Green Valley and Willard championship was still probably the best one of the week. I didn't see some of the early ones, and that Willard walk-off was special, wasn't it, Kevin?
Yeah, I was going to say my two favorite games, the 6As were all phenomenal. I loved watching those heavy hitters go at each other, and they were all good. But I would say the Kennett semifinal game with Kennett and Lafayette.
Lafayette, yeah.
That was phenomenal. And then the Willard Green Valley game was unbelievable. That was a great finish. And you want to talk about some young talent. Willard, they were pulling freshmen off the bench, and they were getting huge pinch hits. They had a freshman third base making a couple web gems. That's going to be a team to deal with. Now, they had, a couple senior pitchers, Dalen Stewart in particular, that had a really good tournament down there. But, boy, Willard's really well coached. And they got some young talent. Freshmen and sophomores we will see them again over the next couple of years. But then Green Valley kind of had that individual performance. Cole Keller was one of the best individual performances on both sides of the whole week, doing it on the mound and at the plate. He was a game changer for Green Valley, and that was a back and forth. There was three lead changes, I believe, down the stretch there, and Willard finally got him with a sophomore, their sophomore catcher, Caden McMain got the game-winning hit there in the end in extra innings. So that was I agree with you. That was probably the game of the tournament.
It was fun. It was really fun. And so, as we're moving on here, let's take a look at some of these kids here. We got Grant Richards is in the number 4 spot in the 2022s. Now, I asked you earlier, Grant Richards, his younger brother, Gavin Richards, who's a 2025, he's already committed to Oklahoma. This young man's committed to Coastal Carolina. Those are 2 top programs, aren't they, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, clearly baseball runs into the family over there, but I think Grant got banged up a little bit this year, so we didn't really get to see, his full potential through the season. Obviously, the younger one's a really good baseball player. The older one's a really good baseball player. I think St. Dominic as a whole would have been a different team if he would have stayed. I mean, you got a kid going to Coastal Carolina, middle, good player. It's a different game, when you've got that person at shortstop, kind of a team player. But I mean, those are 2 really good baseball players, and I'm kind of curious to see, how things pan out for the younger one. How it's actually kind of shocking him verbally commits, but. Hey, that's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to do. So,
and Matt, let's stay with you on this. Francis Howell, Jake McCutcheon's come back. He how's he rebound that district championship? It's a tough play. He's feeling that, right?
I knew he is going to be itching to get the season started, and he's going to be working hard in the off season. He's going to be pushing the younger guys that had a role in that team to step up and have even a bigger role. Because You got to think if they can get. They got a couple of young arms that they really didn't use that. They didn't really rely on.
Mm-hmm.
But the other kid from that team is Norfleet. Norfleet comes back healthy. I mean, who knows? He might not even play baseball in college. He might go play football.
Right.
He's a B. He's one that we're really keeping an eye on, because if he can be a 1 or 2 for Howell with some of the younger arms they have too, and you put McCutcheon in that list to be a leader on the field, they're going to be scary again.
Yeah. So, Kevin, we're going to look up over here to Ray-Pec, Liberty, Park Hill, all these kids, Blue Springs South. You got four kids right there in a row. Michigan, Missouri, Kansas, Missouri, all committed. That district up there that we talked about, District 8, is going to be brutal again.
Absolutely, yeah. And we talked about before on air, Liberty had some really good young players, but there's no guarantees over there out of that district, because Liberty North is going to be one of the top teams. I will be shocked if they don't make a run over the next 3 years. They have some really good young talent. Staley's always in the mix. Park Hill was strong this year. And Liberty's going to be extremely strong again next year, but there are no guarantees over there in that district. That is going to be another battle. That in itself is almost like a state championship coming out of there. But that's going to be a fun one to have an eye on the next couple of years.
You got plenty of good talent in those. This young man going to Michigan I think this is one of the arms you talked about earlier in the season, Bryson Gooding, right?
Yeah. A tall, athletic-looking kid, lefty that's capable of running it up into the upper 80s, and his best days are ahead of him. There's some projection there, but he certainly has the arm talent.
Very good, guys. We're going to finish up here. I'm going to get your opinions here in a minute, because I have the old NC2A bracket here. We just got through the regionals. The regionals. We're into the super regionals, Sweet 16, and we're going to get some picks from you guys. So hang in there with that. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming schedule with PBR. Matt, you know this very well. There's a lot of club teams who will bring PBR in and just do events for their kids, right? Yeah. I've always, from day one, have told my kids to do PBR events, whether they live in Missouri, Illinois, Ohio, freaking Florida, it doesn't matter. Wherever you're at, you got to get seen. You got to let people know who you are. And I think, especially in Missouri, I've said this a million times, but I think Kevin's done a really good job of having events with clubs, and just getting out there and letting finding out who these kids are and getting these kids the exposure that they need. Different world now, so a lot of things on the computer, the website. You get ranked in PBR, and you got your third party profiles. It's different when you got a third party evaluating you as opposed to your coach evaluating you. So all for them. I love them. Kevin, we got some good stuff coming up. Your summer events, you started yesterday, or Tuesday, Tuesday. And yes. You're starting to roll. Tell us a little bit about what's coming up.
Yeah. We just had our Mo Underclass Games, which is one of our bigger events of the summer, with our 2023s and a handful of 24s, and had a lot of standout talent there. I'm excited, and we'll start to form our which will be our main event of the summer nationally, the Future Games team from Missouri. And there's definitely a good group that was at the Mo Underclass Games. And next week we have our MoCan version of that over at Creekside Complex in Kansas City. We have our STL, our St. Louis Top Prospect game, which is for the 22 class at Lindenwood University next Tuesday. So we have some really big events coming up over the next 2 weeks or so. And, getting out and seeing the players and getting to know them, especially the younger guys. This is a time where, some of these young guys pop up and I see them for the first time because, in the spring, you're watching the varsity teams and, you don't always get to see the freshmen or sophomores. But that is the nice thing when I do the events with the scout days with the individual programs. I get to see their younger guys and kind of have a name. Like, for example, Zumwalt South, who was at the state tournament, had a freshman named Carter Cox that I got to see at a scout day, and honestly had no clue who he was until the scout day. And he's a freshman in 2024 that was up to 85 at our event and swung it well and kind of tracked him. He ended up making the varsity team for Zumwalt South and having a really good year for them. And so it is a fun way to get out and see some of these younger guys, know who they are, and then have an eye on them throughout the summer and during their high school season.
Very good. Guys, if you're not following Kevin, make sure you follow him. You can either follow him on Twitter or on Instagram at PBR Missouri. So make sure, I think we have that up on the screen. Yes, no, maybe. Yeah. Anywho, at PBR Missouri, you can follow him there. Make sure you're doing this because it's so important. I think the basic adage is recruit yourself, right?
Pretty much.
If you're going to get out there, nobody showcases yourself better than yourself. I guess if that's the way you want to say it. We had some great times. Oh, and Matt, guess the other part of this I want to tell you. From last week, we were talking about state championships, it is pronounced Oran. We got a comment from some folks over at in Oran who were watching, and she said, and it was a gal said, it is pronounced Oran. So thank you very much. Matt was trying not to butcher that. I love it.
It's hard sometimes, right?
But we know how it's pronounced now, right?
That's right. That's right. I figured somebody was going to correct us.
And they did, which is good. There you go. You don't want to be butchering people's hometown names, right? All right, guys, you ready? NC2A.
Let's do it.
Arkansas, NC State.
Well, that's easy.
So just move on. Arkansas.
I say that, no problems. They had their struggles though in the super regional.
Yes, they did.
Regional, I mean, they had their struggles in the regional, but
they got there.
I can't steer away from them.
Okay, Stanford, Texas Tech.
I'm gonna go Red Raiders.
Tech.
Really? Ooh, I'm gonna take Stanford. I'm gonna hang with my Pac-12. It's just Homer stuff. I don't know. Arizona, Ole Miss.
This is a good one.
Yeah, I'm taking Arizona.
50-51, but I'm going Ole Miss.
I'm going to take the Rebels.
Okay. I got to go Matt, Kevin, Brian, Matt, Kevin, Brian. Okay, or no, Brian. Dang, we're on the opposite side. East Carolina, Vanderbilt. I think that's an easy one. Well, East Carolina's been really good.
Let's be honest. If you're here, you're good, right? But I'm going Vandy.
Kevin?
I'm going to ride the Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter train here. And Christian Little.
Yeah. Texas and South Florida.
So my heart is with South Florida because they are the premier underdog that's really left in this thing, right?
Right.
I just don't know how they go to Austin and win this. So I am going to go Texas.
What do you think, Kevin?
Hook 'em. I'll say the Horns.
South Florida, I know you always seem to have one team that just kind of gets in there, right? And they seem like that team. We'll see. Notre Dame, Mississippi State.
Just another good one. I'm gonna go with Notre Dame, and the reason is I think they kind of played a little angry in their regional, and I think they got a little chip on their shoulder right now.
Okay.
This one for me has been the toughest to call, but I'm going to go with the Irish here.
Oh, wow. All right. Dallas Baptist University and Virginia. I thought TCU was coming out of this one.
Well, Dallas Baptist, this is their first super regional appearance ever. Virginia kind of riding the momentum of a walk-off. I'm going to go with Virginia.
How about you, Kevin?
Boy, this is a tough call. Because they've been there and done it before, I'm going to take Virginia in this. A lot of pedigree there, so I'll take the Cavaliers.
I'm going to take Dallas Baptist. I think they're rolling.
I like it.
I like that.
Well, this is also a super regional game it's a game for both teams because it's in South Carolina.
LSU, Tennessee, guys. How about that walk-off from Tennessee, right?
Really cool.
Grand Salami.
Buddy, they're getting some heat. They're getting some, but that's them, man. That's how they play or lose.
Yeah. I think Tennessee. That's me.
I'm gonna go Tennessee.
It is a cool story with Maneri retiring. It would be fun to see him make it to Omaha, but I'm going to go with the St. Louis connection here and go with the Volunteers here.
All right. There you go, folks, if you want to fill out a bracket. Everybody's going to Arkansas. That's the easy one. So we got some stuff. It'll be interesting to see. Guys, thanks for coming on the show. Yeah. Oh, that's right. We got to announce our winner. I'm sorry. We did do a winner, Charlie Hustle. We'll put it out on Facebook. We'll put it out on Instagram. Tracy Eichhorn, thanks for liking, subscribing, and commenting. Tracy Eichhorn is the winner of the Charlie Hustle box set. Appreciate it, guys. We'll let you know what's going on there. We'll do some other stuff. We're going to probably get into another one here. Yeah, my producer, I'm sorry, I forgot. Thanks for reminding me, Justin. We need if Tracy, if you're watching, give us a message, shoot us at either put it in the comments, whatever. Instant message us on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll get it set up to where we can get you your box set, buddy. All right, thank you. Guys, always a pleasure. Next week, we're going to be talking 2023s. We got some more stuff from PBR. Matt, thanks for joining us in Cincinnati. You're going to be traveling a lot. So, guys, looking forward to the summer.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Everybody, hey, make sure you pitchers keep throwing strikes. You hitters, Matt.
Hit them where they ain't.
There it is, even from Cincinnati, right? Everybody have a great day, Lord, and we'll see you next time.